Well, welcome to another Cafecito conversation. And I am just delighted to have Dr. Pat Brown with us today. And we're just in our little virtual coffee house with our virtual coffee, having a chat. And in our cafecitos, it's an opportunity for us to talk to members of our community about diversity, inclusion, and why it's so important for equity here at Azusa Pacific University. And today, once again, we are just so delighted to have Dr. Brown with us. So welcome, Dr. Brown. Can you tell us a little bit about your role at APU?
Hello, Richard. I am Patricia Brown, a faculty member in the English department. I've been here at APU for 15 years, and I teach in the English department as well as in the Ethnic Studies program. I am the president of the Black Faculty, Staff, and Administrators Association, which is an affinity group for faculty and staff here at APU. And I am a diversity ambassador. Yeah, I'm just happy to be here.
Well, we are so thankful that you're with us today. And so Pat, as you think about your multiple hats that you wear in your role specifically as the president of the Black Faculty, Staff, and Administrator Association, you were really a pioneer at Azusa Pacific, and the BFSAA was the first Mosaic Affinity group to even exist and to be formed at Azusa Pacific. So could you tell us a little bit about the BFSAA, but also why it's so important that we have not only that Mosaic Association, but others beginning to form?
Yeah, it started off as an informal gathering. Actually, Dr. Don Brown, he approached me and a few others and said, hey, we need to get together. We see each other all the time. We need a formal structure to create community. And so that was back in 2017. And we sort of met and got some ideas together about what we wanted to get out of this affinity organization. And one of the main benefits of creating such organizations is a sense of belonging, creating a space for people who have similar experiences and backgrounds to feel community and belonging. So you cultivate this community of people, you create camaraderie. It makes you feel like you belong here at APU, that you're not just one person out here who looks different, who has a different experience, but there are several people, and people are surprised when I tell them that we have about 75 to 80 people on our roster, on our Black faculty and staff roster, and they're thinking, I thought maybe there were only 6 or 7 of us. We're the 70 or 75, but they're quite a few. So we're isolated in our own little spaces of operation and our responsibilities here at APU, not knowing that there's so many people like us here. So when we create this space through our ethnic affinity organizations, we get to see that, hey, we're not as isolated as we thought that we were. So creating a sense of community and support is very important, because that in turn, I believe, helps with retention and not so much turnover, because you feel like, okay, this is the place for me.
Yes. Oh, well, that is wonderful. And it's taken a few years to get to this point.
It has.
Uh, so as you think about belonging, as you think about community, as you think about bringing this supportive network together, I'll take a little slant as far as my follow-up question. There might be somebody out there that says, well, Dr. Brown, you said that this is good for a sense of belonging. So didn't you feel like you belonged at APU before that? And why is it still so important that you have this kind of a community formed?
I did I feel like I belonged before. I felt like I was here. I functioned very um, ancillary. I fit in into my department, but I didn't have a lived and shared experience with people in the APU community, similar people who had similar experiences and backgrounds as I did. And so I sort of belonged, but not really belonged. I didn't have an outlet. I didn't have space. Um, I had to fit in with the dominant culture of APU, which the dominant culture is not my experience. So um, to answer your question, I was in a very ancillary or marginalized space until I I got this group of people. Someone from my organization just called me today and said, "Hey, there's a student who's in need of an advisor and a mentor." And I'm like, "Okay, let me tag team and put her off to someone else that's in our organization who's able to now connect her with someone else." So we're just a network, a community of people where we can easily just pick up the phone and call each other. That means so much
Yes.
to me.
So that feeling of support, that feeling of networking, and you mentioned too, it's not only the faculty, staff, administrators that are part of the group, but an example of how it supports students as well.
That is a big part of our organization's aim is to have students understand that there's a group of people who look like you who are advocating for you. And so one of our subcommittees is the Black Student Advocacy Subcommittee. So we advocate on behalf of our Black students. We work in conjunction with them. Yeah, so that's a big part.
So students are aware of the emergence of this particular Affinity Mosaic Association.
Yeah, particularly the Black Student Association, BSA, which is the ethnic affinity organization for the student parts. And so that group consistently reaches out to us for collaboration and support.
Yes, good. So kind of going back to still the same strain of my question about belonging. As a person of color, as a Black woman, and I'm talking as a Latino male,
Mhm.
um, there's a certain amount of navigation that takes place of any organization, frankly.
Mhm.
And so I'm sensing that within this community that we're building within each emerging Mosaic association, that there is this need for not only networking, but that networking helps us to navigate a more complex system. Uh, what has been your experience in terms of that navigation as a person of color, and how does that Mosaic Association fit into maybe equipping faculty and staff administrators and being more successful in a university like ours, like APU?
Yeah, I think the example that I just gave of one of our staff members actually was Everett Brooks, who called me and trying to help that one student navigate APU system and needing that connection to help someone, to find someone, help that student. So yeah, so these our affinity groups are important because they help us to share, they allow us to share our experiences, and those experiences make us wiser in terms of navigating certain um, um, communities or groups within APU. So if you're isolated, you don't have an opportunity to hear the experience of others, and therefore you don't really know how to navigate. So that shared experience, that community of exchanging information is so crucial to understanding how to navigate the larger system of APU, because you have 70, 75 people in different areas of APU. They're having experience. I know very little about higher ed program on the graduate level, but Michelle Cox does. So I can connect with her and so forth. You know all of these people, and so we have this roster where people can look and say, hey, there's someone over here in that department or in this position who can help me to navigate this larger system of APU and can give it information to me from a perspective of being a Black person.
Thank you. So, as you know, we have some emerging Affinity Mosaic associations. We have an Asian Mosaic Association, and we have a Latinx Faculty Staff Administrator Association. What might be some suggestions or even affirmations that you can provide for our emerging Mosaic affinity groups in order to build their networks of support?
I would first of all say take baby steps. Crawl, walk, run. Crawl, walk, run. My husband says that all the time. You want so much, and your organization has so much potential, but it takes time to build from this. We started in 2017, this 2021, 4 years in. So it took us some time to figure out, first of all, who are we? We were constantly tweaking and revising our mission statement and our pillars and our pillar statements and our aims and our focus, our restructuring our subcommittees. So it takes a while because this is uncharted territory. So my first point of advice would be to go slow and do it well, so that you don't rush out of the gate and do it not so well. So slow and well is the key. And then two, first of all, you're just creating community and just space and fellowship. But ultimately, as one of our members, who's our senior consultant, Ed Barron, said, okay, at some point, we need to move beyond the 3 F's, the food, fun, and fellowship. We need to, which food, fun, and fellowship is essential to creating community. Yes, here you go. But we need to have a place and voice at the table, at these decision-making tables at APU. We need to be effective in terms of addressing issues that we think need to be changed. So when you start off, you have to create community, food, fun, and fellowship. But at some point, you're going to start to move beyond that, but not forsake it, and have some more structured, intentional, measurable aims and goals for the organization.
That's so important and actually very, very timely with our renewal strategic planning process.
Yeah, indeed.
as you think about the role that Affinity Mosaic organizations or associations can play in our new phase of renewal, I guess it's another picking your brains as to what might you suggest for us in our mosaics of how we can sit at the table, how we can speak into a new vision for Azusa Pacific.
Yeah, I think that first of all, we've been invited to the table. Our organization, our president of our university, actually had a meeting with us, and it just so happens that the things that we wanted for the Black community, the faculty, staff, and students, these were things that were in the strategic plan. So he was happy to see that, wow, we are actually scratching where you itch. And so that helps. So you need to get in the ear, so to speak, of people who are forming these tables and invite your ask to be invited to those tables. So that strategic plan. So if you're, there's so many committees or portions of the strategic plan or subparts. So wherever your desire is, what you want for your organization, see if where it naturally fits into the already existing strategic plan. And if it's not specifically scratching where you itch, then reach out to someone and say, hey, have you thought about including or folding this particular part into that strategic plan, that particular portion of the strategic plan? So being intentional about connecting to someone. And the great thing about our new strategic plan is that it really is trying to meet the needs of so many people so that we create a broader sense of community at APU. And I'm really happy about that.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Brown, for your insights and your encouragement for us to be proactive, for us to be looking for those leverage points and those opportunities in which we can speak into the renewal plan. And actually, if we're not invited to sit at the table, then ask to be sitting at the table.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Well, we thank you for this Cafecito conversation, and let us not have this be the last.
Okay, thanks for inviting me.